Chapter 4 How Little Pear Lit a Firecracker. Crack, crack, crack. Firecrackers were popping, gongs were ringing, and all through the village there were crowds of people coming and going, for the New Year's festival had started. In China, they celebrated the New Year for 2 whole weeks, and all during that time, everybody has a holiday. "This is the time of good things to eat," said Little Pear to Urga, as they sat on the high doorstep of their gateway between the 2 stone lions. They were happily munching some round flat cakes and listening to the jolly music of firecrackers coming from far down the street. "I wish the New Year's festival would last forever," said Urga. "Nobody has to work now, and tonight there are going to be very beautiful fireworks, and we all have new clothes." Little Pear looked proudly down at his new mustard-colored trousers and purple jacket. He had a bright green string tied around his pigtail, and he wore a silver chain around his neck with a dragon clasp in front. It was a good luck charm. His mother hoped that it would keep him from running away. Urga, too, had new clothes. She had a bright red jacket and bright red trousers, and down her forehead there were 3 spots of red paint, which were just meant for trimming and made her look very pretty. Crack, crack, crack. The firecrackers were popping steadily farther down the street. Suddenly, Little Pear jumped up. "I'm going to watch them," he cried. "You may finish my cake." "Don't go too near the firecrackers," said Urga, as Little Pear ran off. "Take care, because you have on your new clothes." Little Pear ran along, and further he got from the home, and then nearer to the middle of the village, the more people there were. The streets were crowded with people, all smiling and happy, for everyone was having a holiday. Little Pear pushed his way through the crowd, taking care not to step on any chickens or to tumble over any babies. In the very center of the village was the biggest crowd of all, for there in the middle of the street was a man who was setting off firecrackers, small ones and big ones and middle-sized ones, firecrackers that were separate and went off pop, and firecrackers that were all strung together and went pop, 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 pop. All the boys of the village were standing around the man, watching him with their mouths open. "Stand back," he said to them. "Don't come too close. It is dangerous to come too near to firecrackers. Stand around in a circle and not so close." Little Pear pushed his way through the crowd quite easily. He was so small. Soon he was standing at the edge of the circle, where he could see all the firecrackers very plainly as they went off. He stood and watched excitedly as the man lit the firecrackers one by one from a piece of punk. "How I should like to light one," he thought. Just then a big boy spoke to the man. "Let me set off a firecracker," he begged. "I want to set off a big one with a loud bang noise." Little Pear looked up at the boy. It was the biggest of the boys who had chased him off the pond. When the man said to the boy, "Yes, you may light just one firecracker," Little Pear thought, "Perhaps he will let me light just one too, if I ask him. That will show that I'm a big boy too." The big boy struck a match and lighted a large firecracker. Then he stepped back quickly. Bang! Went the cracker, shooting up in the air. "Ah!" cried everybody. "What a beautiful firecracker that one was, and what a loud noise it made." "Please," said Little Pear to the man, "may I light a firecracker too?" "You are too small," said the man. "You are too small," said the big boy, and everybody else said, "Oh yes, he is too small." Then Little Pear said, "Why, no, I am not too small. I can light a small firecracker." The man laughed in a kind way. "All right," he said, "you may light one, but be very quick and very careful." Little Pear picked out a tiny firework. Then he stood it up in the middle of the circle and drew in his breath as he leaned over and lighted it. "Stand back, everyone," he cried. But in his excitement, Little Pear forgot to stand back himself. Pop went the firecracker, and it flew right up and hit Little Pear. "Oh," cried Little Pear, and "Oh," cried everybody else. "Are you hurt? Did it burn you?" "No," said Little Pear, rather in a surprised voice. But he looked down at his clothes, and there, right in the middle of his very best brand new purple jacket, was a hole burnt by the firecracker. "Oh," cried Little Pear more loudly this time, "my beautiful new jacket." He suddenly remembered that Urga had told him not to go near the firecrackers, and he felt so ashamed that he began to cry. The people all tried to comfort him. Never mind, they said, that was a fine firecracker that you set off. And as for the hole, why, your mother will mend it so that it will not show. Little Pear felt better then, and he thought that if he were as big enough boy to fire off a firecracker, he was too big a boy to cry. He pushed his way through the crowd again in the direction of his house. He was taking care again not to bump into any babies or step on any chickens, when all of a sudden, bump, someone ran into him. It was Urga. "Oh, Little Pear," she cried, "I have been looking for you. Father has brought us some beautiful new kites for New Year's presents. Come quickly and see." When Urga and Little Pear reached home, there sure enough were the kites. One was a huge yellow butterfly, and one was a giant goldfish. Little Pear was so delighted that he forgot all about his new jacket until his mother said, "I smell something burnt." Then he remembered. "It's my new jacket," he said, his voice growing very small. "I lit a firecracker, just one, but it burned a hole in my jacket." "Oh, Little Pear, what a bad boy you are," cried his mother. "But I am glad that it is only your jacket that is hurt and not you. Firecrackers are very dangerous, and you must never, never light one again, at least not until you are a very big boy." That night the family stood in their doorway watching the fireworks that were to celebrate the New Year's festival. All the sky over the village was bright with the beautiful many-colored lights. Little Pear and his sisters were all dressed in their very best clothes. But if you looked closely at Little Pear's purple jacket, you could see a tiny hole, neatly darned. As he had heard the hissing noise of the skyrockets and watched the sparks falling across the sky, Little Pear decided that when he was a very big boy, he would send off 1,000,000 firecrackers and 2,000,000 skyrockets. But that now, after all, it was nearly as much fun to watch.